the past 8 months now, I've been trying to incorporate reading in my morning routine. To be honest, the last book I've read was probably back in high school, which was more than a decade ago. But I'm happy to say just by doing some light reading in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, I've managed to read around 16 books in the past 8 months. And right now I'm actually reading the Harry Potter series and I'm in the last book. More than half of the books I've read are in the non-fiction realm, self-help books. And there are 4 books that I want to talk about today in this video that really changed my mindset, my outlook in life, and continue to change the way I see life in general. If you're looking for something to read, maybe you can start with these 4 books and hopefully it impacts you the same way that it has impacted me. First book on the list here is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. According to Stephen Covey, the 7 habits that he describes here are not secrets, but rather they're universal truths. And it's not something that you'll master just by reading the book cover to cover. It's gonna require maybe multiple rereads to actually embody all 7 habits. But so far, what really made an influence in me is habit number 3, which is put first things first. To be effective with time management, you gotta be proactive with how you prioritize the important things in your life. Covey says that the things we do can be categorized into 4 different quadrants. Quadrant 1 are things that we do that are important and urgent. Quadrant 2 involves things that are important but not urgent. Quadrant 3 are things that are not important but urgent. And quadrant 4, things that are not urgent and also not important. He says here that we spend most of our times in quadrants 1 and 2, but the mistake that many people are doing is we focus a bulk of our time in things that are in quadrant 1, things that are urgent and important. He says that we should be instead focusing on things that are not urgent but important. Because things that are important but not urgent, if we neglect those, then eventually they will become quadrant 1 items and it just drowns you out with urgent tasks that you need to do or give more attention to. And taught me not to wait for things to become urgent before giving it attention, because by the time that something important becomes urgent, it's on me because I allowed the problem to become a problem instead of preventing it in the first place. I guess that's what they mean with prevention is better than cure. The second book on the list is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F*** by Manson. By the way I'm going through these books is in chronological order of how I read them. According to Manson, we only have a given amount of F's that we can give every day, and we must choose them wisely as to what things we give a f*** about. Because if you give a f*** about way too many things or everything, you start losing yourself in the midst of the chaos around you. So he says that since we have limited amount of f***s, we should choose them wisely. And depending on what your priorities are in life or what's important to you, you choose what you want to suffer for. And it's up to us to choose what affects us. That's including how we react in certain situations, how we allow our emotions to get the better of ourselves. Everything that he talks about here was everything that I wasn't doing. I was actually giving a f*** about a ton of things in life and worrying about the opinions of other people towards myself. And reading this book was definitely a slap in the face, because here he tells you, you have the choice of ignoring these people. I have the choice of listening to this random stranger who made a rude comment about me. I have a choice whether I will believe whatever someone says on social media or whatever. I have a choice, and it's up to me to choose if I would give a f*** about that thing or just f***. So after reading this book, I learned instead of giving a f*** about everything, just give a f*** about what's important to me. And that ties in again to book number 1, where you identify what really is important to you and just focus on that. and everything else.
The third book on my list here is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is kind of a manual in building good habits and breaking bad ones. James Clear goes over 4 laws, which is make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Aside from the 4 laws that James Clear goes over, what really stood out for me is the concept that he talked about, that making small changes every day will pay out in dividends in the future as long as you keep at it every single day. When we talk about change, it's easy to get caught up into making a big change in your life. Those are good, making those big changes, but then being human, it's easy to become demotivated after you make that big change. Because I've definitely been on the same boat where I want to get healthy, I want to start breaking this old habit of mine of just sitting on the couch watching TV and everything. Why not, do something physical, go outside and maybe work out. The problem with what I was doing is I was making too big of a change in a short amount of time. I tell myself, hey, I'm gonna start working out every other day. I'm gonna start eating healthy. I keep at it for the first week. The second week, it gets rough. And the third week, I end up abandoning my goal and the habit just never comes to fruition. So what James Clear mentions in this book is you don't need to make that big of a change in a small amount of time. What you just need to do is make small changes every day. A change you make today will impact the change you're making tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And that small change will compound to a much bigger change that you will see down the line, as opposed to having a big change now and just not being able to stick with it. That's actually how I was able to develop my new habit of reading. When I read the 7 Habits, it took me 9 months because I had a goal of reading 30 minutes a day. But after not reading for 10 years, reading for 30 minutes per day seemed like an eternity. It was super hard to stay focused, stay motivated to read, and it just never worked out for me. It took me 9 months to read this book, whereas it took me 2 weeks to read this book.
The last book on the list is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Ager. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say a big thank you for watching the whole thing and supporting these videos. If you're liking what you're seeing so far, I encourage you to please give the video a like, and it would really mean a lot to me if you can subscribe. So back to the book. Similar to the previous books I've talked about, I also got this at a thrift store. I was looking through the aisles and I see this, just like that. The title was not familiar, but the word happiness really stood out for me. My perception of happiness all my life is something that you achieve after you've gone through something. It's not something that is freely given to you. It's something that you earn. And what I mean here is that in society, we've been told that, my generation at least, that in order to be happy, you need to be successful. And in order to be successful, you need to do A, B, and C. And only after you achieve these things, that's only when you can be happy. That has been my perception of happiness, I guess, all my life. Once I finish school, I'll be happy. Once I find my dream job, I'll be happy. Yes, you do feel happy after achieving those goals, but after that, you start chasing another form of happiness. And it just becomes a process of chasing happiness in a circle again and again and again. This book told me that it's not supposed to be that way. Success doesn't fuel happiness, but actually it's the other way around. It's happiness that fuels success. If you're happy with what you're doing, you'll be successful. If you're happy and positive about the things around you, you'll be successful. And it's not the other way around, where you need to be successful first in order to have that positive and happy mindset. You gain an advantage over your peers around you if you're more happy with whatever it is that you're doing. Finding what it is that makes you happy and using that as a leverage to become successful.
And that's what the happiness advantage is all about. My thoughts are kind of all over the place with these books, but if you are looking for books to read, I highly recommend these four. And in my opinion, they kind of complement each other. And if you do get a chance to read these books, I hope that they also impact you in a way that it has impacted me and changed my outlook in life and in everything else. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.